How good is OU? Welcome to the Voice of College Football, breaking down the game we all love each and every day with you. Best discussion, debate, and analysis. Thank you for your participation. Oklahoma survives against UCF today, 31-29. And keep some things into consideration here. The Knights came into this game truly struggling against just about everyone in the Big 12. There was a spurt of time there for UCF football where after leading Baylor 35-7, they gave up 29 consecutive points. They gave up the first 31 in their last game against Kansas. They went down 31-0. They gave up 60 consecutive points without scoring one single point against Big 12 competition. They have been ineffective and not close against the Big 12. UCF comes into Norman as an 18-point underdog. Now, Oklahoma, of course, coming off that enormous, mammoth, huge win against Texas. Most of us thought Texas was the better football team, and they may turn out to be the better football team. But on that day in the Cotton Bowl, OU stood up. Big plays on defense, big plays on offense, played in the clutch. Their quarterback, Dillon Gabriel, performed the best he ever has in a big pressure moment and delivered. And Oklahoma, you could understand the letdown, but they didn't have to play the next week. They had a bye week to prepare for UCF, get their heads straightened on one more time to get ready for this one, and it was not pretty, and they escaped against a very marginal football team. 31-29 final. UCF came out 3 and out. Boom. Couldn't block Oklahoma, couldn't come close to matching Oklahoma up front very early in the football game. They only gained 15 yards in the first quarter, and Oklahoma seemingly was a better team, took control in this one. Also consider UCF's quarterback, John Rice Plumlee, back in the lineup, and more runner than passer, did throw for 248 yards. UCF really missed his leadership while he was away. He comes back into the lineup, so he takes control of the offense. However, his mobility was compromised greatly in this game. 9 attempts. That included 3 sacks, negative 4 yards rushing for JRP, who usually is a factor in the running game for UCF. So Oklahoma benefited from that as well. Also, the narrative of the game was Dillon Gabriel matching up against his former team, a team in which he threw for well over 7,000 yards and 90 touchdowns in his career. I believe that was reversed, about 9,000 yards and 70 touchdowns, if I recall. By the way, we've got a little Aflac trivia question for you. I was able to pin this one quickly. We got Dillon Gabriel second among FBS quarterbacks right now in passing yardage and touchdowns. Who's first? Who is the active leader in FBS passing yardage and touchdowns right now? Back to the ball game, Oklahoma in a tussle with UCF, but again, it didn't start that way. The Knights punted on their first 4 possessions in this one. OU scored a quick touchdown. They did miss a field goal before that, so Schmidt had a rough day with a couple misses. Trace Ford had a series on his hands on one of the Oklahoma stops. He had a batted pass at the line of scrimmage, also just completely annihilated a ball carrier for a TFL as the pulling guard missed him, and he blew up the play as Oklahoma was sound on defense after playing that strong game against Texas. Nick Anderson has emerged as the big play threat, and that was one of the big questions for this Oklahoma team coming into this season. Good wide receiver core, decent. Drake Stoops, the slot guy, Jalil Farouk. Antrell Anthony was added from Michigan through the transfer portal to add the big play threat, and he started to deliver, but he was unfortunately knocked out for the rest of the season a few weeks ago. It's been Nick Anderson, 29-yard touchdown catch to make it 7-0. Schmidt misses another field goal as Oklahoma could have expanded the lead, and then UCF started to get the running game clicked in with R.J. Harvey ripping off a 54-yard run. He was tough to bring down in this game. R.J. Harvey, 23 carries for 101. And again, Oklahoma defenders bouncing off him all afternoon, and he is a load. 10 carries for 74 yards or 10 plays for 74 yards as UCF tied it up at 7. Xavier Townsend was a guy that Gus Malzahn wanted to get more involved in the offense. He's a threat as a jack-of-all-trades type of player. Did catch 5 passes for 33 yards, a couple carries for 38 yards as well, including an end around that got UCF back on the board with a field goal to lead 10-7. UCF, after that 15-yard offensive performance in the first quarter, ripped off 119 in the first half of the second quarter and 217 after 4 punts to start off the game. So UCF, too much to handle at this point for Oklahoma as this game started to become a back-and-forth battle, and I thought it was going to be a blowout. I really did. I picked Oklahoma to cover in this game. Nick Anderson, thank goodness for Sooner fans, you have him, ripped off a 42-yard touchdown where he just completely blew by the DB to Corian Patterson for the touchdown on the go route, 14-10. Nick Anderson came into this game with only 14 receptions for 7 touchdowns, so big plays when he does get his hands on the football. But I think they are targeting and wanting to put him in more one-on-one matchups to make big plays. Courtesy Nick Anderson, 5 catches for 105 on this day. Drake Stoops scored a touchdown after Javon Baker just went off on Oklahoma's secondary during the second half to put a couple touchdowns on the board. And UCF went into the fourth quarter with a 23-17 lead in efforts of pulling off the upset on the road. Would that not have been something? But the Sooners counter. Drake Stoops with a touchdown on the swing pass jukes the defender in the open field. Jaden Gibson with a tremendous block, and Oklahoma took the lead 24-23. RJ Harvey comes right back. He's not going down easily, and he leads a touchdown drive that got UCF back in it, although the drive prior to that, Peyton Bowen, look out for him. If you've not heard about Peyton Bowen, the 5-star safety who was a recruiting win for Brent Venables, made a huge play on a third down that stopped UCF with 7 minutes left in the game and created a punting situation there, but it was the final drive of the game for UCF where they marched down the field, scored the touchdown to make it a one-possession game. This was following a Gavin Sawchuk touchdown. So I missed this one. Gavin Sawchuk did score the touchdown to make it 31-23. Sawchuk got off to a rough start in this game. He dropped a snap in the Wildcat position. Then he also had a fumble that he got back and also blown up in the backfield. So not a good start for Gavin Sawchuk. But the prized recruit from 2 recruiting cycles ago finished strong with a long touchdown run to complete an 80-yard Oklahoma drive with 3 minutes left in the game to go up 31-23. Then UCF comes down the field and they score what could have been the game-tying touchdown as Javon Baker scored. The former Alabama wide receiver had a big day, 5 catches for $134, but it was Kendall Dolby who sniffed out the trick play to Xavier Townsend that cost UCF the game and preserved the win for Oklahoma. Deep sigh of relief for Sooner Nation, 31-29. So again, got to question Oklahoma here because UCF, it's not as though this is the UCF that we've seen in the American Conference in recent years. It's also John Rice Plumlee hobbling around, not able to be the threat that he typically is. It's Oklahoma at home. It's coming off a bye week with all the preparation that they were able to put together in preparing for this game, and UCF takes them down to the wire. My thought about Oklahoma is you're typically never as good as your high point or as low as your low point. Oklahoma is a really good football team. Are they a finished product? By no means. Dylan Gabriel did have a nice game at 25 for 38 on the day. UCF at 0-4 in the Big 12, and keep in mind that between UCF and the other 3 new members of the Big 12, they're not quite ready to play in this league yet. 2-12 against the Big 12. And the Knights go to West Virginia next week. For Oklahoma, they've got to take on a Kansas team on the road. The Jayhawks come in very capable of pulling off an upset in this one. So Oklahoma's path to the Big 12 championship game, maybe not as smooth as we had thought. They go to Kansas. The Jayhawks are 5-2, but the Sooners at 7-0, and despite the scare, still unscathed. Your thoughts about Oklahoma and UCF as well as they try to compete in the Big 12 right here at the Voice of College Football.